This is Sportswatch on 6 News. I'm Leo Puglisi. That's Tin Nguyen. Nice to have your company for another week. Sheza was supposed to be here. He might drop in midway through, but we'll just wait and see. But it's been another big week, and it's rare that we actually have two AFL stories, but they're both of significant attention, and they're both grabbing your attention. I know, Tin. We'll start off with your old favourite topic, Michael Voss. The pressure has not let up following that loss to Collingwood, of course. It's, a bit of a grim thing. It's certainly not going away in the headlines, and performances like that won't make it go away. Has your view on his position changed since we first brought this up a couple of weeks ago?
I mean, obviously, the hot seat has warmed up. No position is easy to keep when you're losing that many games in a row, and it's definitely much harder to keep when you lose to, your rivals. And that's been in the spotlight all week. It's been on the spotlight all weekend, and I think pretty much we've got coming into the lead into the final couple of games of the round. Without a big result on Thursday, against Brisbane, it's not going to be a matter of if Voss keeps his job or if he loses his job. It will be a matter of how much longer has he got? Because I mean, if it hasn't before, it really has felt like now that most of the fan base has started to turn the tide on, the club and on the management and on Voss, and it's become much more glaringly obvious over the last couple of weeks, and especially over that after that loss against Collingwood.
What would a good turnaround in the final 5-6 games for Carlton look like? What kind of result would you think is, acceptable, or is it nothing at all is acceptable at this point?
I mean, yeah, it does feel. You could admit. I probably won't be the first to admit that it does almost feel kind of like the apocalypse. As a Carlton fan right now, it's felt like that for a couple of weeks now, actually. But yeah, look, obviously, amongst fans, obviously, realistically, no turnaround could truly heal what's happened over this couple of seasons, especially with finals pretty much locked and steady.
Lachlan Sheriff, in 10 seconds, will Michael Voss stay at Carlton for 2026?
He will not.
Pretty simple. Now, sticking with the AFL, this new idea of an in-season tournament, a few proposals that have come up, and it was kind of floated a few weeks ago. We covered it at the time. It was in the Age over the past few days. There's two main proposals. The one is to have it kind of rolling throughout the season. You guys following football in the UK and other parts of Europe will, of course, be very, very familiar with that kind of thing through various tournaments, mind you. The other proposal is to have it as this kind of mid-season thing, a standalone block over a week or two or three, whatever it is. It has been met with a fair bit of backlash, I think purely just because people are frustrated with the AFL and other areas. Lachlan, do you see it working?
No, I can't see it working if I'm being completely honest. And I said the same thing when we talked about it a couple of weeks ago. I do see the appeal. I do understand that, people want to try new things. The AFL wants to try this new thing. They want to see if this insane tournament can help bring money. I understand that. However, I do think you've got to consider AFL is a very physically demanding sport. It's the reason we only play once a week. You can't play two games in a week like a basketball team would or like, a soccer team would. So I do think you have to consider from that point of view. I do think the quality of football would completely go down. And look, how are they even going to fit these games in? The season's already long enough as it is. Starts in, pre-season training starts in February. You're playing practice games in early March. You've got all the way into October. So I'm not really sure where you can fit in more games. So to summarize, I really don't think this would work at all.
They're playing practice games in February now. That's how early things are getting at this point. Tin, again, to kind of use the European football comparison here, a different sport. We all know that. But, they have plenty of tournaments. Would one slot in? I mean, again, we're talking going from 0 to 1 at this point. There is literally nothing else. We don't even have a preseason cup anymore. Would one help to stop kind of this weird period of games that we're currently in the middle of where everything's boring? And also right now, mind you, the finals is set bar one position.
Oh yeah, it's an interesting point you make. Like you mentioned, obviously, just from a fan's perspective, obviously the last couple of weeks of football, you could argue have been pretty boring. I mean, we've had a year where the top half of the table has been pretty clear of the bottom half, and well, it's made for pretty stale watching, to be honest. And look, whether the format of in-season cup succeeds or not is up for interpretation. Me personally, I'm willing to give it a go either way, but I think that I couldn't deny the fact that what it would do is it would probably keep interest in football sort of up in the middle of the season where, these sort of games sort of just become, there are sort of these dead rubber games that are sort of stale for the average neutral fan to watch. And I think it's an interesting concept that's worth exploring. Maybe it's obviously the AFL has flirted with these American concepts before, so I think yeah, it's an interesting concept that's worth following, I think.
I would still prefer something involving the lower league clubs, but I think that's a topic for another day, which we will get into at some point, I am sure. Over to the round ball game now, since we've been kind of teasing that more Docky Cup action in Victoria this week. This is, of course, off the back of some other state league finals. You saw the Waratah Cup in New South Wales, Sydney United 58 1-0 over the Northern Tigers in that. And look, we're looking ahead to the Australia Cup. We've talked about that before. We'll continue to talk about that in future. But in terms of Doherty Cup action, what are you looking forward to, Tin?
Yeah, so obviously it's a pretty known fact that I'm an Avondale supporter. So I'll sort of make note of the 6 p.m. kickoff on Saturday, which is the semi-final between South Melbourne and Avondale. Obviously, we've talked about South Melbourne for weeks. They've had sort of a difficult season, but they're 2 games away from silverware now, from winning the Doherty Cup, and all that awaits them is Avondale. It's an interesting game on paper. Obviously, you've got the 2 championship teams. You've had 2 squads who've had starkly different seasons, but of course, South Melbourne have had a very good comeback in recent weeks. They've turned things around massively. Are they still in the mix for relegation in the league? Yes, but you've argued they've turned it around massively since we've last covered them. And pretty much come Saturday, we've got an extremely interesting matchup on paper where we've got these 2 high-flying teams, and it's pretty much a very good preview for the championship in October.
Lachlan, we see South Melbourne has kind of avoided relegation. You would think mathematically, you'd think looking at the teams who are the current bottom three. Let's assume they aren't. Let's assume nothing insane happens in the final few weeks of the NPL Victoria. Nothing happens. How would you kind of look at the importance of this game and their Australia Cup games in terms of the overall picture of their 2025 so far, after what has been a rough few months that we've covered?
Look, it's been a very rough few months. There's absolutely no denying that. However, like you said, you look at the table now, you look at, victory reserves, you look at Port Melbourne, you look at Knights, they do look like the 3 who are ready to go down now. So South Melbourne was rough for a while, but I think they're going to stay up. Now you've got an opportunity to, go win the Docky Cup. You're 2 games away from that. Try and make a run in the Oz Cup. Go do some damage in the championship. So you've definitely got a lot more to look forward to now as a Hellas fan. Definitely more than the Leafs. I think at this point, the Leafs is going to finish 10th or 9th, and it's going to be pretty much a write-off year. So looking out these cup competitions is going to be huge for them, a huge opportunity to make sure that 2025 did have some positive outcome.
Yeah, and I think of course, we forget that the 2025 season includes the Australian Championship. Like we've still got all that to look forward to, which should be exciting. And again, we've teased it for a few weeks now, but we will have something on that very soon, I'm sure, right, Tim? So you can all stay home and stay tuned for that. And just over to the AIHL quickly, Tin. We are slowly, of course, approaching the finals, which is, mind you, for those who kind of missed out, when we talked about it the other week, we're talking about a 3-day finals series. But what was the latest over the weekend?
Yeah, so obviously the headline of the week was, of course, the big Melbourne derby on Friday, which the Ice pretty much dismantled their rivals as usual, 5-2, well, as expected, I should say. On the Saturday, the Canberra Braves defeated bottom place Central Coast Rhinos, so obviously their season's gone tougher, but yeah, congratulations to Canberra. It's another sellout crowd at the AIS arena. The Ice defeated the Newcastle North Stars, which it was a good fight by the North Stars. It was 8-6 in the end, but that will hurt their finals chances. So that'll be interesting. But Adelaide also going down 4-7 to Brisbane, who have flown high in recent weeks. And on the Sunday, the North Stars defeated the Mustangs 8-5, and Brisbane defeated Adelaide 4-2. So some interesting results. Pretty much the table's starting to take shape now. We're starting to get an idea of pretty much who's in for the finals and who's out. And I think, yeah, we're starting to see these teams sort of really come to form come the end of the season. And I think we've got a better idea of who's going to be challenging for the Goodall Cup.
Lachlan, we've just quickly, we've covered it all year, right? And it's just been amazing how dominant the ice have been, especially when, it's interesting when we compare it to all the other sports and all the other leagues we talk about when we've covered the change at the top. Ice have just been there. They're going to be there for the rest of the regular season. I don't think mathematically they can lose that top spot, maybe, but realistically, it's not going to happen. But that is a remarkable display of dominance. But with that said, it's certainly not boring any fans, because they still get amazing crowds here in Melbourne.
Of course it's not. Look, the Ice are one of the biggest clubs in the league, and they have an incredible fan base. And every time I've been to one of their games, I've been completely impressed by the turnout they have, not only in the fans, obviously, but also on the ice. They've been the far and away best team all season. But you look at it now, and I think for every other team, obviously you want to focus on yourself, but I still think every other team right now is, how do you beat the Ice? Because look at the Ice's form. They're 22 points ahead of second place Lightning. They still have a lot in regulation. This is one of the best teams we've probably seen in any sport in Australia, if you want to go that far. So look, are they going to get done in finals? You'd have to assume they're favourites, but there's going to be a lot of teams out there who want to take them down. So it's going to be an interesting watch.
Yeah, it will be fascinating. We'll cover it very, very closely right here on Sportswatch. And that is Sportswatch for this week. Going to plan as usual. This is exactly how it was meant to be formatted. This is exactly how it was all supposed to go. Of course, you can catch up with all those episodes anytime you want right here on the Six News YouTube channel. You can, of course, subscribe right now and support our work for just $4 a month or $10 a month at the new executive producer tier, patreon.com/6NewsAU. I'm Leo Puglisi. Thanks for tuning in.